What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the ARC Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Zachary, and for those who are new tuning in, thank you for listening. This is the Athletes Resilience Center podcast, where we talk all things mental performance in sports. We have my co-host, Matt Owens, with me. Matt, how we doing today?
Doing well, man. Looking forward to getting to this fall season now.
Oh, yeah, big time, big time. The transition into the fall season is a big reason why we kind of wanted to do this episode. And the focus on this episode is going to be concerning burnout. And basically, the gist of what we're talking about when we talk about burnout is a lot of athletes that we see or have worked with. This is a time period where they have a break between summer ball and fall ball, whether that's high school, you're going from your high school season into your travel ball season into the summer, and now there's this lull period at like the end of August into the early September where you're not really having these team practices, you're probably not playing in many tournaments, but you're prepping and getting ready for your fall season. And the same goes for college athletes, where we're in that time period where you played your full college season, you might be off and had played your summer season or have trained all summer, like whatever the outlet was that you went into. And now you have a little bit of time off before your fall season, gets up and running. So this part of the year, this time of the year, can lead a lot of people to feel a sense of burnout where it's like, man, we've been going through this grind all season. We kind of need this break. I feel like I'm getting burned out a little bit. And the conversation today is going to be very heavily focused on, I guess, navigating how you deal with burnout, but also how you're still drilling down on your process and making sure you're doing things every day to hit the goals that you want to achieve and to get ready for your fall season. We're also going to get a unique experience from the coach's perspective, obviously from Matt, who's actively coaching and has been recruiting all summer and obviously hasn't had much of a break there, right? So there's obviously a burnout element to being a coach as well. So we're going to kind of dive into all of that we've navigated and dealt with personally and what we see in athletes. So Matt, I think we can start with just, I guess we'll go at a lower level. So high school athletes, right? Like someone's probably gone through their high school season, then, especially the state in which baseball is right now, right? They jump right into the summer season. There's not really much of a break, especially if you're going from a high school season where you made playoffs probably into June, and then you're getting ready for your, travel ball tournaments at the end of June. There really is no stopping, right?
Right.
There's no breaks. You're throwing bullpens, you're getting ready. Every week is a grind, grind, grind. Now we're getting to that point where there's this lull, right? Where it's like, I've played so many games, I've thrown X amount of innings this year. Like, I'm feeling that little fatigue, that little burnout, just like mentally drained from the season that you've just had. So, I guess from your perspective, just when you've played, right? When we get to this time period where there is that break, whether it's a 2 week break, whether it's a month long break, whatever it looks like, how have you navigated, evaluating, all right, this is when I need to pump the brakes a little bit, and this is when I need to go, pedal to the metal and try to get after it as much as I possibly can?
Yeah, I think, once you finish up your high school season, you kind of roll right into the summertime. Like it's just nonstop. Like, if you're lucky enough and you're on a team that's traveling a bunch of places and everything, like that travel almost becomes like your break, your downtime, and then you're
Yeah,
like right
right.
back into it, right? And so,
Definitely.
I think the best way to kind of, avoid kind of getting burnt out in like that situation is just identify like what it is that you like to do and when you have time to kind of go ahead and do that stuff, right? So like, yeah, I've talked to recruits, this summer where, they're down in, Georgia or, they're down in Florida playing and they're like, oh, I'm out fishing or, I'm out, doing top golf tonight or, I'm out playing
Yeah.
like some pickup basketball, right? Like just some areas where, within your schedule, okay, I can get a break and everything. I wouldn't recommend playing pickup basketball now just because
Yeah, no.
you're probably just tearing up your body after a
Yeah,
long season and everything. But like,
right.
you're fishing, it's mental, it's quiet, you're able to go out, have a good time and everything. If you're doing top golf, it's not too taxing on your body and everything like that.
Right.
You're having fun with your teammates, your friends, your parents,
Right.
everything of that nature. So identify really what it is that you like to do, how you want to get away, and like when you can do that and everything. Because not everyone's going to have that luxury of being able to take a week long vacation, take a couple vacations at any point. So it's just really about when you have that small pocket of time, like what it is that you're going to do with that to recover and everything.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a very rare time. You use a lot of good examples of how to decompress, and I think that's really important. Now, I wouldn't say every single day you should be, golfing with friends or
Right.
fishing and just ignoring everything else that's going on, right? I think something that's really important that I've talked with athletes about, and I think you and I probably have implemented in some sort, whether we didn't know it at the time, but I think listing out what your non-negotiables look like every single day is really important. And once you kind of check those things off your list, even in a time period like this, whether that's like, all right, today I'm going to make sure I get my mobility in. Great. Today I'm going to make sure I get my lift in. Great. Today I'm going to make sure I get my throwing in. Great. Check, check, check. I'm going to make sure I'm getting the meals that I need to get in, right? Check. I think once you have those non-negotiables laid out for yourself, where it's like every single day I need to be hitting X, Y, and Z, and of course every day doesn't need to be the same exact thing. Some days you're gonna have a higher intensity throw, some days you're not. But making sure, okay, I have these non-negotiables now. By 3 p.m., my day's clear, right? I can do whatever we want. Like you hear guys talk about it all the time in spring training. They're in at 7 a.m. and they're done by noon, and it's like I have the rest of the day to do whatever I want. You can play video games with your friends if you want and decompress. You can fish, you can do that. Where when you're in your high school season and you're in your travel season, or even in college, right? You're in your college season, you're in summer ball, it's a little bit harder to do all that, right? Like the summer schedule for travel, like you don't know when you're playing, and like even if you have a double header in the morning game, even if you're a pitcher and you're not pitching, like you're still at that game, right? You're still sitting there. You can't just like decompress. You're still involved in it, right? This is such a rare time period where you have a couple weeks off where you can implement that stuff. Whether you are a guy that likes to golf, or you are a guy that likes to go fishing or play video games with your friends or do whatever. Now's the time to kind of capitalize that while also implementing those non-negotiables every single day that you're going to do, right? Whether you're a hitter and it's I have all of these, things that I need to implement every single day, these drills I need to do every single day, or you're a pitcher and it's like I need to get my throwing in, my mobility in, my lifting in, and then my day's clear, right? Take this opportunity to be able to kind of mesh both. And I think another big piece is maximizing on your recovery during this time period. Really drill down and understand if you were someone during the summer where sleep schedule was an issue, your meals were an issue. Really try to dial that in at this current moment, right? Like, really understand what you're putting into your body and how and when and what's going on with all that, because it's important to get it dialed in now, because it's going to be a lot harder to try to get that dialed in during the season when you're getting busier and busier. So
Absolutely.
now can be a time to reflect on that and say, okay, these are some of the things I need to implement recovery wise. I need to get a healthier diet. I need to make sure I'm eating enough. I need to make sure I'm getting enough protein and carbs in. And then as far as sleep goes, the same thing. It's like really focus on trying to get between the 7 to 9 hour mark. Like every single night, get on a sleep schedule that's great. Now, like I said, with decompressing when you're playing video games, let's be smart about it. Let's not stay up till 3 in the morning playing video games and then,
Right.
sleep until 1, like
Yeah.
things that aren't sustainable. Let's try to be smart about what we're doing. And if you're playing video games at night with your friends, maybe try to get a cutoff for yourself that's reasonable so you can get a good 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. But really try to drill in on the habits that you want to bleed into your fall season, because I think overall that's going to lead to the most gains and success going into September and October.
Absolutely. I think, you nailed it on the head, like talking about like routine and everything. I think how an athlete can get there, especially like the younger you are, right? Like me and you really didn't have this type of schedule until we were, at the tail end of our college career and then after
Yep.
college and everything like that. And I think one thing that could really help out, especially like younger athletes and just anyone in general, is like a priority checklist, like pretty much like
Big
what
time.
it is you want to do and how can I get there, and you can ID that through your checklist. Like I think especially like, this time of year for, baseball, there's some guys that are going to be unsigned, right? There's going to be some guys that are like, I got to go to these camps and, yada, yada, yada. I think, when you sit back and you're like, okay, like let me identify like where I am right now, like where I want to go or where I need to go. Okay, how do I get there? Okay, now how
Yeah.
do I build that out, right? Make a priority checklist. Like talk about sleep, like, okay, I want to get a sleep schedule. Okay, now on my checklist every day, it's okay, maybe it's be in bed by 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., whatever
Right.
it is. So then you could be like, okay, I was in bed by then. Maybe you're scrolling on TikTok, Twitter, whatever you're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
on your phone, but like then at least you can be like, okay, well, when I fell asleep around, let's say 9 o'clock. I woke up at 7:30. I got X amount of sleep. So then you can kind of go through and like actually see and track your progress of like what it looks like for you, day by day and everything. And then you can be like, okay, like as long as I'm checking these boxes, like it's going to help take me to where I want to go, where I want to be, and everything like that. And like I think that priority checklist, especially when it comes to burnout, like for me, it's something that helps me out, a ton because I can actually sit there and be like, okay, like oh, I got all these things to do. Well, if I'm taking care of X, Y, and Z, like you said, like my non-negotiables, then I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I do have time to, go take a walk. I do have time to go work out. I do have time to go do something of leisure and enjoy myself and not have to feel like, all my work is like pressed up on my chest and everything.
Yeah, no, I think that's a phenomenal resource to have is making that priority checklist and every day, like you said, being able to say, all right, this is what I want, like sleep as an example. If that's a priority for you, right? You need to get more sleep. Checking off that next day that you got 8 hours is phenomenal. Or looking at your list the next day and being like, crap, I got 6 hours. Like I stayed up a little too late. I was on my phone, whatever it is, right? Like it kind of helps you keep in check. And I think with the priority checklist, the thing that is really important there is understanding what your why is, right? Like when we talk about burnout, a lot of times you're kind of losing sight of what your why is in the game that you play, right? Like what no matter the sport, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, any sport, right? Your why at the end of the day is going to be most important. Whether you're an athlete who really wants to go play professional sports, right? Or you're an athlete that you want to win the conference for your school, or you're an athlete that you want to be a starter on varsity this coming high school season, right? Like whatever your why is, why? Like I want to play this game because I love this game and I want to be as good as I can. I want to reach my full potential. Drilling that why into yourself every day then allows you to be like, okay, well, what aligns with that on my priority checklist, right? Like if I'm going to preach this and say, I really want this really bad, I want to be, a varsity pitcher this season, what does it look like to get to that point, right? Because I think when we get in burnout, sometimes we just lose sight of why we're doing it, right? You're playing in tournaments every weekend and it's like, okay, I'm exhausted. Like, why am I doing this? And it's like, oh, well, the goal is I want to play college baseball and that's a dream of mine and I'm going to pursue it. And I really want to do everything in my power to do that. But sometimes when we play so many games or we're focused on so many different other variables that are going on, right? It's like your why dwindles, right? It's like, no, I love this game and I want to play it for as long as I possibly can and I want to reach my fullest potential. But, when you're playing so many games in the summer, you're playing so many games in your high school season, maybe things aren't going the way that you want them to go, it's really easy to lose your why. So this is a really good time for you to, recalibrate almost and say, all right, these are my whys. This is why I want to do that. Now I need to reset my goals in order to align with what my why looks like. Like, why is it important for me to go do that, right? It's like I love the game and I want to keep playing and this is my everything, right? Like I have aspirations of playing professional baseball. And then from there you're able to reset your goals and recalibrate and it's like, okay, now I can make a blueprint of what it looks like to be a professional athlete, right? And like I think now is a great time resource wise. We live in an age where you can go on YouTube and I mean just from a pitcher's example, you can go look at what Paul Skeen's day to day looks like. Like you have blueprints of what it looks like to be a professional athlete on the internet. You just go on YouTube and search it, right? Like it's a day and age where that's accessible. Where, when we were real little kids, that wasn't a thing, right? Like you had no idea what it took. But now, literally laid out there for you. It's like they spend X amount of hours doing X, Y, and Z. They do this, they do this. There's day in the life videos where it's like, all right, this is what my meals look like for the day. Like it's really accessible where you can go in and make your own blueprint based on other things that you see. And obviously, you can take pieces from Paul Skeens, you can take pieces from other guys that you see that you like that you want to incorporate. But like now is the time to recalibrate what your goals look like and where you want to go. And also on
Right.
the other end, right? Like maybe you had a phenomenal summer and your goal in the high school season was I want to throw 90 miles an hour, but you hit 90 miles an hour this spring. Okay, or this summer. Great. I'm going to go and this is the time where I'm going to recalibrate my goals. All right, now I want to hit 95 in the spring, right? Like you can recalibrate it at this time period because you have the time to do so, right? Like you have time to kind of take a step back, evaluate the process of what went on during the summer and spring and where you want to help it take you this fall and the spring coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna take that example a little bit for a spin. Like, I think the biggest thing is like you said, like, hey, like if you want to be professional, like there's a blueprint for that, right? And like a
Right.
lot of times that blueprint is the most boring thing possible, right? So
Big
like,
time. Big time.
Kobe waking up, going to the gym at 4 a.m. or wherever he was doing at 4 a.m., right? Like Paul Skeens, whatever he's doing with his routine, the foods he's eating, how he's going about
Right.
his work, the times he's putting in his work, like if you're a kid and you want to be a college player or a professional player and like you're going to emulate this, like you got to realize that like you might eclipse a point in time where you're like, I'm starting to get burnt out, but you also got to then look back at the why, right? Like you said, like if you want to be a professional athlete and like that is, like why you're doing what you're doing is because you want to do that, right? Like you shouldn't be super burnt out. And if you start to get
Right.
burnt out because you're doing that, then maybe you need to take a step back and be like, okay, like what is it that I really want? And then you also got to realize that like you see Paul Skeens' routine. Well, once he gets to that off season, it's not really on camera, right? Like you might get a day
Right.
or two in the gym with Men's Health or Sports Illustrated, like doing
Yeah.
a story on him, right? But like at the end of the day, you're not seeing like him go. I don't know if he goes fishing, hunting, like all that stuff, right? But you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
what he's doing in his leisure time. So it's just
Right.
like those guys aren't. They're not aliens. They're not. They're not robots. Like they are people too. And I'm sure through a major league season, you have 162 games. You can't do everything that you want to do
No.
because you're on the road. You're playing games
Right.
constantly. So like whenever those guys can find a break, sure they take a break, right? So it's like
Oh,
as a
big time.
kid, you gotta look at that as well and be like, hey, listen, like that guy's taking a break. I need to take a break. I need to take a step back. And I think that identification is so key.
Oh yeah, no, huge. And you made a really good point. I was working with a pitcher and we were talking about like and listen, I was the same way and I know for a fact you were the same way where we're like 7 days a week I'm gonna just be better. Like
Right.
I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna throw 7 days a week, you're gonna hit 7 days a week, we're gonna lift 7 days a week. Like we're not leaving any of this to chance. Like this is what we're gonna do. Where you're looking back at the end of the day and it's like, well, no shit, I was sore on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I didn't have a recovery day. And I was working with a pitcher, and same thing. Like every single day, he had throwing programmed or he had lifting programmed. And it's like something I said, both mentally and physically, that I think I wish I implemented more, which I started to later, like in college, because felt it and I needed it, was take a complete recovery day. Like whatever the day that is. Like I used to pitch on Saturdays in college. On Sundays, complete recovery day. What's that? I'm walking, I'm not moving much, right? I'm, making sure I'm being aware of what I'm putting into my body, right? I'm recovering, I'm sleeping, I'm staying off my feet as much as you can, right? You can get sauna, ice bath, whatever you think helps your body in that sense, but I'm not going in and hitting a workout, right? Like I think it's okay to say, the best thing for my body today, how I'm going to get 1% better today, is taking full advantage of what my recovery looks like, right? Like, whatever that is. Even, like, if you go and stretch, like, you could do yoga that day, like, a lower intense yoga, I should say. Let's, like, make the distinction there because I'm talking about recovery. Like, I'm not trying to go in and kill myself doing that. Like I'm trying to go in and make sure I'm stretching out and making my body feel good. I'm rolling out like at the lightest. Like I'm not doing anything super crazy. But like you said, if you're looking at those guys when they have the chance to get an off day, they're going to take the off day and recover, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you watch quarterbacks, but obviously football comparatively to baseball is a much more physically demanding sport on the day to day. Like talking about how physical it gets, but Jared Goff had like an off day, and he's like, "Oh, we have an off day tomorrow." And then his wife and parents were like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" And he's like, "I am not moving one muscle tomorrow. Like I am laying on this couch all day." And it's like, and they're like, "Okay, like great," but like that's also telling. It's like a guy who's playing at the absolute highest level, who probably in his mind is like, tomorrow I do need to, get up and work out and do these things, knows the best thing that's in interest for him and his progression as a quarterback is taking the day off tomorrow and not doing literally anything. Like
Yep.
kicking his feet up a little bit and being able to decompress. Because again, at the end of the day, if you're doing all of your work that you need to do 6 days a week, that seventh day you can afford to have that recovery day in order to make sure on Monday I'm attacking it again. So both my mind and my body can recover full.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, as we're kind of sitting here talking, I'm like, well, a lot of times, like when you get burnt out, it's like you're doing this thing, you just keep doing it, keep doing it. It's like mindless behavior, right? Like
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
mindless behavior will lead to burnout
Big
almost
time.
100% of the time, right? Mindful behavior, right, will keep you away from that, and you're actually going to have like some type of fruitful interaction with like the work that you're doing and like the process that you're trying to implement and everything. So it's just like it's crazy because like I mean honestly, it's like all of us have been burnt out, right? Anyone who's listening to this, you, myself, like we've all been burnt
Of
out,
course.
and it's like by the time you kind of like realize it, or as you're leading up to that point, you're always sitting there like, why am I doing this? Or like you're like, man, like I can't believe I'm doing this again. Or you just look
Of
up and
course.
you're like, oh shoot, I just been working for X amount of time,
Right.
or however many days straight I've been doing the same thing, and then you're like, I can't wait for a break, and then that countdown to that
Yeah.
break just becomes super important in your mind. You're like, I can't
Right.
wait for Saturday, I can't wait for Monday, I can't wait for Sunday.
Right.
Like whenever you have a time to kind of like take a step back and everything. And so yeah, I feel like we talked about this off the pod before, but like the 12-week year, like
Yeah.
that's been an instrumental book for myself, just because I'm able to purchase the planner and everything like that. And so like I'm like, okay, I want to be as thorough as possible with my work in this amount of time, so that I can
Right.
actually sit there and like break everything down that I need to do in this amount of time. And then also on top of it, I can also see then where I have these holes of time where I can be like, okay, I can fill this with, going with my fiance somewhere, right?
Of course.
A
Yeah.
mini vacation,
Right.
go play with my dog, like do something where I'm not, overly stressed, or I'm like, man, I won't have time for this, or I don't have time for this, or I can't do this because I need to do this. It allows me to actually sit there and like actively see everything.
Yeah, big time. Now, we talked about from the player's perspective, right? Like, let's create this priority list, make sure we're kind of shaving off the fat of what we don't need to focus on, right? The priority list you said is really important. Just making sure those things, the non negotiables, we're hitting every day during this time period is really important. Making sure we are incorporating like recovery days and decompressing and making sure we are doing things that we don't normally, capitalize on, whether it is golf or fishing or whatever your interests are, playing video games, all that type of stuff. And, recalibrating your goals and making sure, we're doing that work where we're kind of reevaluating how our summer went and where we want to go into the fall. And making sure we're drilled in on our why and falling in love with the process, because we know it's going to lead us to where we want to go at the end of the day and help us achieve our why. So now I'd love to hear from your perspective as a coach, right? Because, a lot of people might think from the outside looking in, like, as a player, they got to grind physically so they're ready for the season. But, the coach isn't grinding physically for the season, right? Like he's not playing. So it's like, oh, maybe he gets summers off. And obviously, being in the game, understanding it, that is far from the case, right? Like you've been recruiting since your season ended the week after, right? It's like on the road, ready to go. I'd love to hear your perspective kind of on like burnout and how that impacts coaches, both at the collegiate level, the pro level, and, all in between.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, someone's always got it worse, right? So, for me, like, it sounds like I'm doing a lot. I mean, I know there's obviously others that they're doing more, right? Some schools need to do more, some programs require to do more, So, for my perspective and just stories I've heard over like the years and everything like that, like it makes it so much more important, like the people that you work for, the school that you're working for, and just kind of
Yeah.
your role on that staff and everything like that. Yeah, I guess the biggest way is just like you kind of know what you're doing, right? Like when you sign up to do the job, it's no different than any other job, right? Like that's part of the workload. You're going to be on the road. You're going to be recruiting. Like there's ways you can enjoy yourself, like when you're out on the road, right? Like when I go and do camps in DC, right? Like I'll sit down with the guys that are working the camp too, and we'll have a dinner that night, right? Just kind of like
Right.
enjoy it, and like even though it's just like, oh well, your camp dinner and then your camp again the next morning. Well, it's just like you get the pocket of time, like use
Right.
it, sit back, relax, like
Yeah.
enjoy it and everything like that. And like most of these guys, like we're all old heads at this point, right? Your coaches are all old heads, right? So you sit back and you just exchange stories and everything like that, and just like you take enjoyment out of that. Some guys, they don't go out with other coaches, and that's fine, and like they won't go and have like dinner with you, they won't eat like lunch with you, they'll go and they'll phone home and talk to fiance, talk to wife, anything of that
Right.
nature, which is perfectly fine. However you want to fill the time, you fill the time. But I think coaches are such masters of filling time, just because we know, we're like, okay, well, I have this pocket of time where, other people might have a pocket of time. They're like, okay, I'm going to go leave the office. I'm going to go get lunch. I'm going to come back. Like, what's the difference? Once our camp's done, we go out and eat dinner, right? Like, that's like leaving the office and going to
Right.
lunch. It's leaving the camp and going to dinner, right? So it's like, our days are pretty much linear with any other job, right? It's just we're just working a lot, and it's different hours. So it's just like when you get to go home and do whatever after 9 to 5, right? Like we might be on the field from 8 to 8 or 8 to 10, and then you
Yeah.
get off the field. It's just like, okay, like what am I going to do with like this small pocket of time? Fill it with however you want to kind of decompress, relax, and then you're on to your next day and everything.
Yeah. No. And I think the conversations you and I have had too, where recruiting is very interesting, especially from the perspective like I obviously coached only for 2 years, right? Like at the collegiate level. And going on recruiting trips too, you see the differences in different colleges and coaches and who you can tell can get burnout pretty quick because of other variables, right? Like
Yeah.
just being frank, right? Like some guys who recruit probably aren't taking the recruiting that seriously, and they're there because it helps aid their paycheck. And again, right? Like a lot of college coaches, we've talked about it, and I feel for a lot of them, aren't getting paid as much as they probably should, truthfully. And it's tough, and you need to go out and make more money. And a lot of these recruiting trips, you can kind of make a bit more money doing that. But I think you can see a kind of disparity between the coaches that really identify with their why and really kind of show that they don't, and they're burnt out from it a little bit. Because I know you and I have talked, right? Like a big thing for you has been like making your impact, right? And making sure you're influencing these players, and trying to make Chestnut Hill the best that it could possibly be, right? And that's building a culmination of kids that are going to win there and want to win, and you're going to be able to help impact that, right? So when you're on these recruiting trips, right, it's like it's more important than just going there and collecting a check, right? It's going there and trying to make your program better and trying to make sure these kids have a fit and trying to make sure you're helping those kids get to the level that they want to get to, right? Like
Right.
there's a deeper level for that. And just talking with you, like, sometimes I'm like looking at I see your location, it's like, dude, where are you right now? And you're like, I'm out recruiting, but like there's never a man, I'm out recruiting, what am I doing? It's like it always comes back to your why. And like we
Yeah.
talked about with players, like if you really want to make that impact and you want to have that influence on people, right? And influence on the school and the program, like those recruiting trips are going to be extremely instrumental in the development of your program and where you want to see it go.
No, absolutely. I mean, you nailed it on the head. Like, at the end of the day, like all of us, like, you know, you're giving a kid an opportunity, right? Like you should
Right.
feel good about that, and that shouldn't be like
Right.
a selfish act, right? That's a
Of course.
selfless act. Like that
Of
kid's
course.
earned it to be where you're at, possibly, right? And if he didn't, like maybe you can help lead him to a place that like he will fit in at and everything. So I think yeah, there's a place for everyone. So it's just like you're going back to the why, help a kid make his life better, right? And set him up for the
Of
next
course.
40 years of life. Like
Of
your
course.
college commitment's not a 4 year commitment. It's a 40-year commitment. You
Yeah.
pay for it after school and your degree is your degree, right? Like, and it sets you up on your path, you know? So you take enjoyment in all that.
Yeah. No, big time. I completely agree. And this is kind of veering maybe a little bit away from sports, but I was just thinking too in the context of like our podcast, right? Because I think like obviously, you're a collegiate coach, you got a lot going on, you're recruiting, we recorded in season, and some late nights you and I are like, let's record the episode. Like I'm working a job, right? Like I have other things going on. Like my wife is pregnant and we're obviously getting ready for that, right? Like we have a lot of other stuff going on. And at the end of the day, sometimes, we can see a little bit of the burnout here because, we're looking at, like, I could speak for myself, and I'm sure you feel similarly in some sense, like looking at views on social media or looking at views on Spotify or YouTube or whatever it is, right? And you're like, man, you get kind of caught up in that. And it's like, man, like this isn't where, you exactly want it to be at that moment. But then at the end of the day, going back to like what the why is for the podcast, right? Like talking about mental performance in sports and hopefully helping people who are able to listen to this, helping athletes, helping coaches who are going through similar things and stories that we go over, and kind of showcasing some of the stories of the guests that we have on. Like that's a once in a lifetime experience. And I think on the last episode when I talked with Joe, right? Like he said, what better opportunity to have someone talk with you one on one, no phones, no focus on anything else than having a podcast. It's like the ultimate networking and communication platform because people will come on and have conversations, and you can go back and forth about their story and the things that they've gone through, and it's really unique and cool. And I think anything that you're going after, and especially in a space like podcasting like this, and kind of having these conversations, it's you can get caught up in the numbers, right? And like the
Right.
data and the statistics of like, oh man, this sucks because it's not getting the number of views. But like at the end of the day, you and I didn't start this podcast to be famous podcasters, right?
Correct.
Like that's not the goal. Like the
Correct.
goal is to have an impact and influence on people. Like hopefully there people listen to this and there is a level of impact that can help them, right? Like, and I think at the end of the day, like throughout this whole ideology and conversation of burnout, it's getting back to your why. Like the why of this podcast is to put out content on mental performance in sports in order to help people, and like the mission says in our Instagram bio, right? Like help athletes find their performance arc, like get to the place where they're comfortable with mentally and physically, right? Like that's the goal. So at the end of the day, it's understanding like why am I doing this, and then it fires you up every single day to get after it because it's like we're granted and blessed with this opportunity to be able to have conversations with one each other, and two with a lot of guests that come on that have really cool and unique stories.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And we get to see it from all perspectives. Like guys doing the same thing we're doing, guys that are playing in the major leagues, like guys trying to find their way back, it's all amazing.
It is. It's great. But I think that's a good place to wrap it up. I think this was a great conversation on burnout, and I hope a lot of the takeaways from this podcast can be utilized by both players, coaches, and people in their day to day lives. Yeah. So at the end of the day, like we said, the big takeaway is making sure we're drilled in on our why. We're making our priority list for doing the things that we need to do. We're decompressing in the right ways. Kind of like at the end of the day, the term like earn your shower, right? Like make sure when we're going fishing, we're going golfing and all that, we're earning that, right? Like we're getting the non-negotiables done, and then we're going and making sure we're doing that. We're taking this time to recalibrate and make sure we're remeasuring our goals and reevaluating where we want to be come fall and spring. And at the end of the day, just enjoying this time to its fullest. Again, there's not many times throughout the year where you're going to have this kind of lull period. Make sure we're enjoying it and we're really taking advantage of that. So, really appreciate all you guys tuning in. Excited to have you guys on again for another podcast episode next week. So thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys soon.
Peace.